so let's start talking a little bit about adapters. But before we do that, let me ask you, what is the problem with our what we got so far in this application?
It's not like
Huh?
it doesn't automatically scroll by itself.
Doesn't automatically scroll by itself. Okay. What else?
It display all the records.
Displays all the records. Yes. Okay.
So the scroller, infinitely scrolling, and you can just keep on.
Yes, it can infinitely scroll, pretty much. Yeah. So here's the problem. Let me explain that. Try to explain this. Imagine that we have a database. Ours is relatively small. I got 22 items in it, or something ridiculous like that. But imagine that we're building like a Gmail client. Okay, and if you're like me, you have maybe 10,000 emails in your email client database, right? This is the data source could be the cloud, right? It doesn't have to be here, right? And now imagine that that you have a screen that can have what 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just say 10 items can be displayed. You have one of the newer phones with bigger screens. So do you see the problem? The problem is that we are linking a tiny little 10-item screen to a gigantic 10,000 unit database. So in our current algorithm, to display 10 items, we're going to fetch 10,000 only to show 0.01% of it, right? 0.1%, right? So very, very small part. So highly inefficient. It's going to build a humongous list for us. So it's going to take forever to display, and so on and so on. So it's not going to work, right? So do you see the problem, everyone?
We could have in the query.
Yeah.
Limit.
Yes. So that's a good point. We could have done in our query. We could have done limit and then put limit 10, limit 20, and then 10, comma 20, and then it would show the second 10, right? And so on. So we could have done that. But then you would be building your own logic for pagination and all that, right? Plus, so that's just on the pulling the data side of things. But what about the fact that I can't click on any of these? I mean, we could also calculate, if I click on here, knowing the X and Y coordinate and knowing the size of each individual text and using the font metrics, I could triangulate which item and comparing it to what, how many items we have in a database. I could triangulate that you clicked on 17th item, right, in the list. But come on, who wants to do that? Do we, we don't have time to do that. So that's not going to work really well for us. So to rescue comes something called adapters, right? So adapters, their job is to basically help us connect a list, okay, or some other selection widget to some other data source. So a data source doesn't have to be a database. It could be a content provider. They work exactly the same, okay? It could be an array, for that matter, right? Array of states, for example, array of days in a week, and so on. So there are a whole bunch of selection components out there. I use the pull-down list as an example. I mean, the list as an example, but pull-downs, all those things are basically working the same way. They're selection components. They need to be attached to an array or to a list of stuff via an adapter. Okay, so far so good. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna improve our timeline by yanking out the text and replacing it with the list. So this is gonna become something called the Listview, and then creating an adapter that the Listview is gonna look to that adapter, and this adapter. Oops. How do I do that? I don't know how to do that. The list view is going to then look at the database for that. That's sort of how it's going to work. Okay? So far so good? So first thing first, I want to go and I want to yank out the this guy. Scroll view plus text view. Scroll view plus text view is a poor man's way of displaying a lot of data. Right? Not very scalable, lots of problems with it and so on. There's something that's much more effective, and that's the list view. By the way, so if you guys have a API demos installed, you could just go and see what I mean by that, what a list view is. So you would go to this API demos. Let's see, views. Is there something that starts with the list? Oh, look, lists. Okay. So array list. Okay, so this is a list. You see this all the time, right? In Android, lists. Pretty common stuff, right? By the way, what are these? They are all what? Yeah, these are all cheeses, and we're still on letter B. Okay. In case you didn't know that there's so many cheeses out there.
I know. So if you hit C, would it automatically go to C? Is this that kind of a list?
Yes.
So it's automatically when you get a list, it's like sorted. It will help you to sort stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. SW and finds my baby Swiss. Perfect. Yep, baby Swiss rocks. So absolutely good.
You got it? You got it?
Yeah. Anything with holes in it is good. Did you guys see that movie recently? It's a comedy. I forget what it is, but it's like some guys from Switzerland said, "Oh yeah, I love your cheese. Let me ask you, does the milk actually come like that out of cows, like with the holes on it?" That's this like brilliant question. Anyway.
Why did you say that using query with, by limiting the number of records you want to fetch is not a good idea? Right now in the query method we are like getting everything, right?
Yes.
So you could have limited that.
Yes.
Why is that a bad idea?
Yeah. So if I have back to this picture, so if I have 10,000 records here, right? And I want to I only have 10 things that I can show here. So yes, I could say first let's get 0 to 10. So 0 to 10 records, right? And so I could do query and then I could do 0, 10, right? Then as the user does that, like lifts with a finger, then I would say let's go from 10 to 20 and so on. But I would have to worry about this thing that's called pagination, right? Right? You would have to worry about that yourself. You would have to do the logic. Okay, can go past the end, can go past the beginning. You know, I don't know if you guys. I mean, when I did web development in PHP back then, yeah, you had to do it yourself. Like, you know, build anything like a little guest book or shopping cart or whatever, product catalog. You had to build it yourself. It was annoying. Yeah, but then people came up with like, you know, Spring framework or, you know, some other frameworks, and it's like, oh, just paginate this, bam, done. Well, it's like, whoa, right? You know, it's like this is better than the sliced bread, right? So yes, you can do everything yourself if you so desire, but you know, somebody did it and optimized it and so on.
That is why we are using list view.
Yes, yes. So the list view is this thing that automatically does that, and you know, you can even like search and, you know, all that stuff. It's really efficient. Like, you know, look, I can go really quickly. I can go to letter L, you know, bam. Well, my UI is not the most responsive, not as the CPU. But you know, if I go like L, for example, see, it's just going to jump really quickly and so forth. So yes, you can build this yourself, but it's already done.
So where is adapter fitting in the picture? Like we're using list view to do this. So adapter sits here. Like between the list view
Yes.
and the adapter?
Yeah, so the adapter basically sits right here. So the process is gonna be, we're gonna create list view. We're gonna attach list view to the adapter, and then we're gonna attach the adapter to the database. Okay, so I'll be coming back to this picture quite a bit. So, so first thing first, so this is a list view. So what we're going to do is, as opposed to doing this whole crazy scroll view, text view, right, which you guys just did, sorry, we're going to yank that out. So we're going to replace that with a, let me get rid of this, let me get rid of this, scroll, I'll just make one list view. I don't need this, I'll just do it like this. Okay, I'll leave this style, hopefully this style works, I don't know exactly if it will. But then I have, ID is going to be important, so I'll say Android column ID, and I'll give it an ID at plus ID slash, and I'll say statuses. I could say list statuses, or I'll just say status. I'll make an exception to my normal rule because I only have one thing here. So let me see if my what my layout looks like. It looks decent. We'll see. Oops. For now, it looks decent. So basically, that whole that whole convoluted text view inside of a scroll view is now replaced with a more modern version of list view. So far so good? Everyone got it? Remember, you can always switch to XML view, and then you can do whatever the heck you want.
No, in the XML view, putting it.
Okay.
We're also taking out the text view and the Java.
Right. So now that exactly. So now that we've changed the XML, then that means that's going to break the Java that's depending on it, right? Because remember, ultimately it's all Java, just augmented by XML. So the moment you changed, XML, look, this ID no longer exists. You can't find r.id.text statuses because we changed the name to dot statuses. Yes. And here's a problem. This is still going to compile. And it's going to crash miserably once we run it because we're going to get a class cast exception when we try to convert an elephant into a locomotive, right? Or a list view into text view, right? So we're going to rename. We're going to get rid of text view. So text view is going to become list view, and I'll call it statuses, or I'll call it list statuses. List statuses. List status is fine. Yeah, now that I think about it, I really wanted to call my ID list status. Oops. But it doesn't matter. You guys can keep it whatever you call it. I'll just change the name. So, list status, just to be consistent. Yeah, at some point somebody should reward me for this consistency. Because if you name stuff same way in the XML, wouldn't it be nice if it was automatically bound in here? Wasn't that PHP had a feature called register globals, right? That was like automatically extracting from your HTTP get and post. It was extracting the variables. Now it proved to be a huge security loophole, but it made developers' life easier. So it's kind of like that. Anyway, so far we just got rid of text view and became list view, and we just updated what we look for on here. So far so good? Yeah. So now what we're gonna do is Listview doesn't work this way. You do not loop over it. Okay. You do, you know, and all this other crazy stuff. So what I'm gonna do is all this other stuff now breaks. I can't compile my code, so I'm gonna comment this out for now. I'm just gonna leave it in here, comment it out, okay? Including the while loop, yeah. I just commented out the whole. Everything after start managing cursor is commented out. Oh, so shortcut is control and then forward slash.
After selecting whatever
Yeah,
you want.
yeah. You select something and you do control. On a Mac, it's Apple or command forward slash, right? Like that. Yeah. Or if you forget, it's always source and then add block comment. Well, no, toggle comment. Add block comment is gonna do the C style, so it's gonna do that. Alright, so you can do that too. Cool, huh? All these features. Cool. So now that we have start managing cursor and we have a list, we gotta set it up. So we're gonna do basically set up adapter business first. Okay, so here's the thing. We're gonna need to create an adapter. Okay, and to do that, I'm gonna define it right here. And basically, these guys, these adapters, you know, they come in sort of two main flavors. Okay, there may be half a dozen different adapters. I don't know, but the two main flavors: you either connect it to an array or you connect it to a cursor. Right? In other words, you either connect it to a fixed set of data or a variable set of data. Because with a cursor, we just have a pointer to some potentially very large data set. Versus with an array, you know, I would have the entire array. So, you know, I would have an array of 52 states, right? But I would have a cursor of all the products in our, you know, mega e-commerce store. Right? So it's that sort of thing. So sometimes you're going to have sometimes this data source is going to be a DB, right? And other times it's going to be an array. Okay? So similarly, you have a DB adapters, or you have cursor adapters, or you have array adapters. So in our case, we're going to have a cursor adapter because that's what we're getting back, cursor, right? And as such, we're going to use a cursor adapter. There's one that's simpler than others. It's called simple cursor adapter. So we're going to use that one, right? Because the name suggests it's somewhat simple. Okay, so you guys got the adapter set up so far, right? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create this new adapter. So I'll say adapter is new simple cursor adapter, right? And now we gotta just click here and say add arguments to match, blah blah blah, right? So basically, just get it to match the actual.
Was this derived from widgets?
What do you mean?
Because when I was trying to import it, said it's part of the widget.
The adapter?
Simple.
Oh, simple cursor. Yes, it is widget simple cursor adapter. Yeah, it's strange why, but yes. I can see why adapters in general would be part of widgets because they are binding to a view, right? So maybe that's why. So far, so good. So it's so I didn't have. I just closed it. I don't remember what arguments there is. So I just put my mouse there and I say, fine, fix it. You know, add it to match whatever it needs to match, right? Yeah. And now we're gonna like figure out one argument at a time, right? So the first one is usually, so let's see, the first argument, if I put my mouse here, the first argument is a context, right? So gotta pass the context. So remember, I could, well, I don't know why Eclipse suggested pass Yamba, that's the first thing it found. I could also pass this, which is the context, right? Because this is a context, right? So I'll just pass this. But either one is gonna be fine because both activity and application come from the same context anyhow.
If anything, I should have said, why did it just say Yamba is completely wrong? Right? Did it just say
Well, it wasn't wrong because Yamba is an application, and application is also derived from context. It would actually work just the same.
But the application is called Yamba application.
Right, but I had a variable that was called Yamba.
Oh, this local variable.
Yeah, this is just a local variable.
I'm sorry.
Member variable. You may notice that, like, if you look at Google code, all the variables they have, they would call them Yamba, meaning it's a local member variable. I don't subscribe to that strategy, but whatever. It's not. I don't know. It works just as well. So okay. So the next thing is something called a layout, and then something called a cursor. Okay, cursor we already have. That's easy, right? And then something called from and to. Okay. So this here, that's a 0. That's actually an ID of a layout. But what layout? Okay. So let's think about that. Yes, something like that. So we're gonna attempt to draw this nicely. So this is our data, right? So it comes in a form of one record at a time, right? Let's imagine that record in a database looks like this, right? It's got ID here, right? It's got timestamp here, right? It's got a name here, and then it's got the actual text, right? Here, I'll write it in green. So this would be ID, right? This is the created at, right? This is the user, and this is the text, right? This is what one record of data looks like, right? Now on the screen, I need to somehow display that. And let's just assume that for now we're going to do something simple. We're just going to print out the username, okay? And maybe right below username we're going to print the actual text. Maybe something like that, right? So, because this picture here has only one item, but imagine I have two, right? So somehow I gotta explain what this looks like. So this is the layout that it's asking for. Okay, it's asking for what does a layout of one single item record looks like, right? Now we could use one of the built-in ones. Like in this case, it's using something a simple list item 1, right? Or we can create our own. Right? We're going to create our own. Okay, but the point is, this is basically a single record that we have. Second point is that somehow we're going to need to bound, like you said, from the world of data. We're going to need to say, oh, this is a user. User goes into this field on the screen, and text goes into this field on the screen. Make sense? We're going to need to bind those two somehow. So far so good? So that's the trick that we need to do. So we are going to start by defining this guy here. Okay? We need to define what that guy looks like. We need to define what that guy looks like. And that guy is what we call a row, right? Like one row of data. So, any ideas where to start? That's correct, yes. So we start with the XML. So we click on the little A plus or file new XML, whatever, Android XML file. I usually call this guy a row XML because it represents a single row of data. But you can call it anything. It's a layout, yes. And that's it. You just click on finish. Bam. Everyone got the big black box? Okay, so now what's confusing is that this big black box in our mind represents an entire row, but it's only going to be a part of it that actually represents a row, right? So what we want to do is we want to describe what a single row looks like. So we are now concerned with just a single row. What does this guy look like? That's what we're designing, right? Make sense? So what we need to do is we need to figure out what we're going to put on the data. And I said let's start slow and small. Let's just add user and text. Just those two things. Just like we did before, we just dumped out user and text. Okay? So well, let's just assume I have sort of username here and then I have text everywhere else, right? Something simple like that. So basically my layout in that case is going to look like two text views. Text view 1, text view 2. Bam, bam. Again, what do I want to do to make these guys run one below each other? Layout orientation. That's right. And we're going to make it vertical. Okay, so they're one below each other. What else? What about the size, the space, and all that? So the top one is probably fine the way it is, right? Layout width and height, right? The bottom one, I'm going to make it, you know, for the width, I'll say fill parent. So not for the height, but for the width. Should what? Okay. So do you want to put padding on the whole thing? I could do that, right? Put the padding on the whole thing. Right?
Well, I was thinking more like the text views, so they're not too
Okay.
close to one another.
So why don't we then, in that case, what we could do is we could define it as in style, right? So fine. So why don't I make my this guy the mother of all? So as opposed to defining vertical and all that here, right? What I'm gonna do is for my mother of all, the main guy, I'll say style is gonna be activity. Ooh, that's not gonna be good, huh? Yeah. Well, actually, I'm gonna just make it vertical for now. Orientation. So I'm working on the layout. Yeah, vertical. But for these guys, I may create a style. Now I'll create a new style. Oops. Style name is gonna be row text, and I'll say item name is gonna be, and then what do we want to say? What did you say we want to do for?
Do padding between the text view.
Okay, so that's gonna be. You know what? I'll just copy this line item. Bam, padding 10. Okay. What else do we want to do? I'll put text size also. Maybe not 25, but like 15. You can just make up whatever you want, right? And then in row, I'll just assign the style. Except it's not ROX, but it's ROW.
The color is usually a hex, so you do X and then you do the color scheme.
Yes, if it's hexadecimal. For the color, yes. So if you specify color as a hexadecimal value, yes, it starts with the R. 0, it's 0x. Yes. Or you can put hash. Huh? Style.xml, sure. Not much going on in there, but sure. Yeah, so I applied style to both. So I created a style, right? Just the common stuff, and then I applied it here to both of these items. Now, yeah. So let me do it. Let's do this. So what we're gonna care about these guys is IDs, right? Because we are gonna need to worry about them programmatically. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the IDs to something more meaningful. So I'll call this one text user. Okay. Sorry, not text. I was changing the ID. Text user. And for this one, ID is going to be text user, text. That's right, text. Now the question is, do I care about the text value of these guys? No, because we're going to be programmatically setting them, right? However, I find it sometimes to just fake it for the development purposes, because check this out. If I remove it, it's going to be extremely hard for you to now see what it looks like and find the first one, right? Make sense? So I find it useful to just sometimes put something like, I don't know, Mickey. Mickey says, so Mickey's, what's Mickey's status? Shopping in Tokyo. Was my recent status. Okay, so now at least you can see what that would look like, right? Make sense? Layout width for I did fill parent for width, and for height I did wrap content. And as a matter of fact, the mother of all, I probably don't want in this case width to be fill parent. I probably want it to be wrap content, so that they're all like kind of. Oops, not the other one. The height, sorry, like that, right? And now that I think about it, I don't want these guys to be like that. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't even want this padding in here. Because what I'm going to rather do is I'm going to set the padding individually. So I'm going to put... actually, you know what? I'll do it like that. Here. I'm going to do it, apply the padding to both, right? But I don't like the padding to be so high between them here, like that. So I'm going to, in one of these, I'll put padding... padding bottom to be lower. Padding bottom, I'll put 0, for example, 0. Doesn't seem to take that into account. Okay. So far, so good? Very simple layout with 2 items. Are you guys good? Any questions?
Can you show this XML rate?
Doesn't like this. Yes, I can. So reformat it, padding 0 dp. By the way, this little thing that I did where I put some default mock-up text, right? And I said that's useful for just for you, like in development. If you try to compile this on a platform, this is not going to compile because it doesn't allow the hard-coded text, even though this is just the text that's going to be temporarily.
I mean, right now it's a company, right now.
No. Sorry, when you compile it for the platform. So if you upload it on the platform and try to compile it, it's going to fail.
If you put hard-coded text, you said again?
So if you, this is fine for development. Eclipse is going to compile it and run it.
Wait, when you have text.
Yeah, like hard-coded like that, yeah.
But it fails if you try to upload it to a device.
No. If you try to compile it on the device as a part of the source or building from source for the platform, yeah. So now we have basically something that looks like that. It's our little view. So in our timeline activity now, when it asks us for a layout, what are we going to point to?
ID of the
Yeah, r.layout dot. Oh, there it is, row. Woohoo! So far, so good. So that is the layout. That's basically saying, how do you display one single row of data? Display single row of data, keyword. Right? Now, the only 2 parameters we got to figure out are these last 2, and they are from, which is a string array, and to, which is an int array. So what are those things? So if I do string from and int 2, what are those 2 things? From and to. They're going to go from and to. What are those 2 things? Any ideas?
columns and everything sort of takes.
Right, so remember, this is our data. It's got 4 things, right? And this is our view, right? So the from is going to be the string names of these columns. So from user, from text, and so on and so on. 2 is going to be an integer representing the ID of a particular view. We're binding. What's that? Exactly. Yeah.
So it's up to us to make those two match.
Yeah. So the from is going to be then the list of the database names, which is status data dot user and status data dot text, right? That's in the database. Those are the column names. So we're mapping from column names to IDs on the screen, right? Make sense? Okay. So what is the 2 gonna be? Any ideas?
So I think the text views that we
Right. So it's gonna be the IDs of the text views. So it's gonna be r dot id dot text user, comma r dot id dot text text.
So how does it know that the C underscore user should get mapped to text user, and how does it do the binding from and to?
Right, it's a good question. How does it know how to bind based on this? So basically, this item here, the first item, gets bound to the first item here. Exactly, and the second item gets bound to the second item over here. So this is bound back to here. Right? So, in other words, from and to must have an equal number of elements. Yeah, exactly. Oops. Yeah. And there's one final thing we need to do. We need to say, we need to connect our list view. So list statuses dot set adapter adapter. So we need to tell it to look at that adapter for data.
There's something.
What's that?
I think the minimum requirement for every XML item is the width.
The layout width, you got that exception.
Yeah.
If you don't specify, it'll throw the exception.
Yeah, you must specify. Yeah, but where do you need to be specified?
I guess I must.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I skipped it too.
Yeah. So you gotta have layout width and layout height. That's why I said it's universally important. Those 2 things, right? Layout width and.
Created using XML directly.
Well, no. Here's the thing. You guys copied my XML, which doesn't specify it, but that's because I had it in style,
No, but how do you tell?
right?
So which file did you want to do that?
Oh, it says binary, binary XML. I figured the last thing we're working on is the XML file for the row.
Yeah, but I do have it. So that's what I'm wondering. I do have.
So yeah, so I had those layout width and layout height specified as part of my style. So
you connect it to multiple adapters? Like we have,
Can you have what?
let's say we have one list view, but we want to connect multiple adapters to it.
Can you have multiple adapters connected to the same list view? Not really, no. No. What you could do is you could create a, sort of a meta adapter and then collect a list to that meta adapter and have that meta adapter manage, multiple connections. So, did anybody run this?
When I'm trying to log, actually it takes some list.
I don't know. I just get logs from before.
Oh, maybe the list view also needs to have a data management.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Now I know. Because I've been starting with that. So the list view needs to have a data management.
And there you go. So it kind of works, right? So if I look at it this way, it's Scrum.
Huh?
Scrum.
Customer stuff.
So that's what it looks like for me. Right? So one thing that we gotta do is we gotta attach this to this list status needs to be added the status adapter, the adapters. We gotta attach the adapter to the list. So if you don't do that, it's not gonna show.
See, when you start the service so it can start the polling, it actually throws back an exception saying application did not close or close the cursor or database object.
Yeah.
We couldn't close it, right? Because when we closed it,
Well, so do you have in your Yamba application terminate, and you call status data terminate, and this the status data calls status data close, yeah, which closes the DB. Check that.
Why would anybody use text view with the scroll view if list view is
Does anybody use text view with a scroll view? Yes, why not? I mean, nothing wrong with the text view with the scroll view. For example, you may have a little about us, or like a license agreement, right? If I had if I wanted to have yet another button here where I would click, and say license agreement, or something, text view with a scroll view would be perfect. Why not, right? Or like, credits, something like that, right? Or help or whatever, Although I would rather wrap it inside of a WebKit, but that's another thing altogether. So, are you guys happy with this? So, it's okay. It's okay. So happy. Okay. I mean, it works, right? So if I click on timeline, I can view all my friends, what they're doing, right?
timeline is actually not showing times.
Ooh, asking for too much. Okay, sure. So why don't you now add a time to it? Okay, so your job now is to tell me how to add time. I picked the two simple ones. So now, what if I wanted to add time? And here's how I want to add time. I want to say posted, so Marco Green, I want to put it here, okay? And I want to say something like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, 2 days ago, a few seconds ago. In other words, I want relative time. So, do you get it? What I want? Let me show you what I want. Show me what you want, what you really want. Huh? Oh. No, that was the. That's the. So what I really want, really want, is this. I want to show like this. I want to say it's posted 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 5 days ago, etc. Make sense? Can you do that? Okay, so let's boil that down into two problems. One problem is create me the UI. So add this to that. What is that? That is what we call what? ROW, right? Right. So let's add that. Let's add yet another view to our row. That's the first problem. Second problem is how to put this data here in a meaningful way. Okay, so let's work on the first thing first. First thing, so the first thing was to go to timeline, right, and to add it. By the way, I just realized I don't like this padding here, padding 15. I'm just going to change a little bit of this padding 15. I don't like that. Oops. X. But on my timeline, this was my list. I'm going to pad the whole list a little bit. It's actually already padded, right? Now let's pad it. Timeline. Yeah, it's using everybody. That's fine. That's pretty good. Okay, so back to row. So my row looks like this right now, right? I want to add a component right here. The question is how.
So we can change from linear layout to something else.
Ooh, we can change from linear layouts to something else.
Well, because now you can't. Because now what you've done is you've used vertical stacking. So with this, way you can't.
Right.
So you can embed probably another layout within this layout.
Right. So that's a good point. So, so me now, if I add yet another component, it's gonna go like right here, right? Whereas I would like to put it in the same line as the other guy, right? So here's what we can do. We can do the following. We can actually reorganize how this looks by doing one vertical. So there's going to be one layout that goes up and down. I'm going to draw it in red. Hopefully you guys can notice, right? Then there's going to be another layout that I'll do in green that has the user here, okay, and then has the timestamp here. Make sense? More specifically, it's got the user going up to here and then timestamp the remainder. So this is going to be a layout too. It's also going to be a linear layout, but this one is going to go left, right. In other words, horizontal, versus this one is going to go up and down. In other words, vertical. Does it make sense? So I'm basically nesting a layout within a layout. This is like still simple, but it's one more complex than what we've done before. So does everyone get it? So I still have my main red layout, but now I'm inserting green layout because I want to support multiple lines. This is not the most optimal, but it's okay. It's going to work for now. So see, I now have just these layouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my yet another linear layout. Bam. I'm going to drag it, drop it. I don't know. I'll just drop it somewhere. It's really hard to get it with this thing to drop it properly. So you might have to like take this thing and like, oh, Well, they used to have a little up-down buttons. I don't see them anymore. You guys may still have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, I don't know how that, oh, does it, oh no, actually now you can drag it. You don't need to do up and down. I guess that's the point. But it doesn't work. How do I drag it into it? I can't. Anyway. Oh, see, I just managed to mess up. Okay, so the whole point is, you know, whatever. I'm gonna do this in reformatted. I'm gonna just yank this whole thing. Well, I'll leave it here, but I'm gonna use this linear layout, the new one, which you can do manually, right? To surround the top. So this is gonna be like this, right? So this is my second column, right? I'm gonna do it. Let me close this. So like this. So, what's that? Oh, the projector is screwed up. There you go. Okay. So so reformat this. So basically, this is my row number 2. So this is my first row of data, user and created at, right? And so that's going to be my first row of data, and then this is going to be my second row of data, and it's going to have text, right? aka status, right? Make sense? Make this a little simpler. I don't know why this is, oops. I don't know why this is, there we go. Make it a little prettier. There, looks pretty cool. So this is my, you know what, I'm even going to be nice to you guys. I'm going to even name these guys. So I'm going to name every single one of them. I usually don't comment my XML, but here you go. So this is the user, right? Right. This is the text, right? And so user, and then the next one is going to be another text view. Might as well copy this one and then change it. So user, and then it's going to be created out. Right? So I'm going to call it text created at. Text is going to be some default text like 10 minutes ago. Okay. I don't think this padding bottom was doing much for me, so I'm going to remove it. But hopefully you're from this you're learning not to be too afraid of just dropping into XML, because it ain't that bad. It's not much worse than HTML, right? Okay. So I can quickly check. I can check what it looks like. Okay. Bam, bam, bam. So now the only problem that I have is that this column, I want to push. See, my problem is I want to push this guy all the way here. Right? How would you do that?
Indentation like center.
Yeah. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna say take all the available space. But because it's a first child, it would normally push the other guy like off the screen, right? So I'll say take all the available space, but acknowledge your children's the weight, right? So I'm gonna do that. So my this guy, so width is gonna be fill parent, okay, okay, but Android, oops, and where's weight? Weight, is this alphabetical? Yeah, I wish that was extra probably. It's layout weight, right? Layout weight, I'm gonna say is 1. Reformat it, okay. So fill parent, but leave space enough for the others. And by the way, I also want my layout width for this guy to be fill parent. And do I care about the ID of my second linear layout?
No.
Thank you. So if you don't care about it, you might as well remove it. Okay, there we go. Mickey, 10 minutes ago, shopping in Tokyo. Well, now. Yeah, okay. So the way it looks for me is like this.
Right, so it got pushed to the right all the way, right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
And
Right.
you did that by saying...
I basically said the top guy, right? So the top. Let me open this up. So I said my top column, which is represented by this linear layout. First of all, I said fill parent horizontally, so take all the space. Then I said first child, take all the space as well, but be mindful to your younger kids, siblings, right? So that's where the weight 1 comes in. And then for the second one, it's just a it's a poor little youngest child, just says wrap content.
The first one has fill parent for both from both, right?
Yeah. This one is fill parent, but see if you just get fill parent without the weight 1, here's what's gonna happen. It's gonna push the other kid. So the other kid is really here. Can't see it. Poor little guy, right? So that's why we don't want that. So I'll push it back, put that back in.
But if I say, because the width I said fill parent, right? And then if you have a longer text, so instead of Mickey, just say, a long string for Mickey Mouse or something. That text is getting snipped off. Make your text much longer.
So let me just make this bold, for instance. If Mickey gets too long, yeah, if Mickey gets too long, I don't know. I'm gonna have a problem.
Right. So what's happening is it's trimming that, and then it's putting the time back.
Yeah. So we can. There's what's this thing that I forget that you can make it actually do a dot, like kind of like maximum width. I forget. There's a property I used it before. Max size. This is max size. Yeah. Anyway. So you can do that, you can specify it, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with this guy, right? I doubt it. By the way, here's a cool thing you can do on this guy, on the link. Check this out. On my text, my actual tweet, right? Status. You can say auto link, and it can actually auto link certain things. So that, if there is a URL, it automatically detects a URL, right? If there's a phone number, it automatically detects phone number. So I'm just going to click on auto link all. Poof. Okay. I can make this one. It's a link or auto link. Auto link. Text appears, text style. Does italic work anymore? No. Which one? Row.xml. So that is row.xml. Are you looking at? You just want to see it.
Yeah, the weight doesn't take effect, right? It's still
Well, so let me ask you this. So when you say fill parent, you're saying I want to take all the space from my father. But what if your father doesn't have a hell of a lot of space? Right? So you check how much your father actually has by checking if his width is fill parent.
yes.
Because you're gonna get you're gonna inherit everything. It's just that the poor older son doesn't inherit much from the poor little father who doesn't have a lot, right? Because he didn't ask for a lot. So
Yeah, now it works.
okay, I'm glad we got the inheritance down. All right. Oops. What did I just do? Okay.
And what was that extent you had to get all the highlights?
That was just there was auto link all.
Do you know what the error message unbound prefix means?
Unbound prefix. No, but let me take a look.
Right, so on create, I should be able to create the table again, right?
You're talking
Now
about.
we dropped the DB table. Oh, sorry, no, this.
Oh, you're talking about the database table. Okay. So what happened to your database table? You dropped. You went in here, right? Into this file, and you had data in there, but then it said drop table statuses,
Correct.
and you just underneath your own database, you just destroyed it, right? So dot dump now there's like no database.
Correct.
Wow. So okay. So when would it get created? So if I run my application again, oops, go here and I click on run. So that is gonna run through on DB. See, did connect to the database. Hold on, too much information. So that's activity start preference. Hold on, change the data.
So it's not doing that, right?
So let's take a look. So what does it run? Okay.
So when you
So if I go menu and I click on timeline, bam, crashed. Okay. So if you look at it here, bam. So
I couldn't find it.
yeah. So exactly. So it tried to do select star from statuses order by. See, this is the internally like that prepared statement, right? And it crashed because it didn't. It thinks that the database is there, but somehow it's not because we went behind the scenes and deleted it. So, like I said, too bad your on create only happens once when it ran. That's
So I
it.
went to applications and I killed it.
That's not. So what will help? How will you force on create? Well, you can't. On create is never ever going to run again. Sorry. Okay, but
Why don't you change the version numbers?
exactly. So what you can do is remember in status data in DB helper, we said that this only runs once, right? Once the database is first created, but whenever the database version changes on upgrade runs again, right? And we currently have a poor man's upgrade version, which simply drops the table and reruns on create. Right? So if I want to create a database again, I am simply going to jack up the DB version from 2 to, say, for example, 3. Run this. Let me delete this so you can actually see it. Okay. I'm gonna now go to. Let me have that open. Menu. Menu timeline. So on updated, drop. So on updated, drop the table, and which reran on create, right? So I bet you now that dot schema is gonna say that I do have statuses, right? and .dump, it's still going to have an empty database, but at least I have the database. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Cool.
Can I see the status data on upgrade? What is it again?
Oh, I just jacked up that number from 2 to 3. It's a version number.
Okay, and on your on upgrade, what do you have?
Oh, on upgrade simply drops the existing table. Says if the table already exists, drop it, and then call on create.
So did we end up with 3 linear layouts or 2?
2. So we have a linear layout with the linear layout inside of it. So yeah. So you guys got it? Did you get it? Yeah. Cool. So that's it. So again, this was our row. So we had a mother of all linear layouts, right? With a first row, which we had to put a secondary linear. We didn't have to, but we chose to put a new linear layout just so that we can do left to right to organize these two guys, right? Which is basically its top row that has user and created that, and then second row, which is didn't need the second layout, which is basically had that. So if I blow this up, that's kind of how it looked. So this is my second row, which was just a simple text view, and then first row was actually two things wrapped in another linear layout. Make sense?
So, this can't upgrade a read-only database from version 1 to 2.
A read-only database. That may mean that your database wasn't closed properly, so it's probably opened by somebody for writing, and that's why it's refusing to give you access to upgrade it. So there's probably a lock on the database. You may have to reboot your emulator or something. You didn't do a close properly somewhere. Remember, we talked about that earlier, that we need to close our data. So I basically said the opposite of create DB helper is close DB helper, yeah. And then I said the opposite of create your not status activity, but the Yamba application. Said the opposite of create the app and create the data is close the app and close the data. So that's why it's done. Cool. So now we got let's run this. So I gotta go back, menu, run start service. Let's see what we got now. Ooh, cannot be connecting to the HTML. Ooh, that's because your friendly network kicked me out. This is gonna say redirect to Cisco. Bam. I'm now reconnected, and I'm going to try again. Huh? How did I get the black screen? Okay, so menu, Yamba. Okay, so menu, let me see. I'm gonna just stop service and then start service. Check this out. Running data. Woohoo! Okay, menu pause because I don't want it to keep on running. Menu go to timeline. Boom, there it is. Right? But did I really type everything 10 minutes ago?
You really typed 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I really typed 10 minutes ago, right? That was my sample text, right? So in other words, I never bound those two, right? So tell me, how do I bind it? What do I go?
Just like how we did for user.
Exactly. So you guys notice that a lot of this is a repetition, right? So just like we did status C user, status C text, I would do, status data c created at, and then I would add r.id.text created at. Bam. By the way, the reason why I left this code below, which I'm going to delete now, but I just wanted to show you that this is really the same as this. Okay? So check this out. So here what I'm really doing is I'm saying how to map from database fields to fields in the UI. Okay? Here's the same thing here. How to map from a database field to a field in the UI, right? Which ultimately goes into UI. It's just that my UI here was represented by a piece of text, right? Make sense? But it's the same thing, right? That's what I wanted to kind of show you. Hopefully it means something. But anyway, we no longer need that. We obsoleted that. So now our code is somewhat simpler. Okay, I rerun this, you say, and let's see what happens.
Give timestamp, right?
Yeah. Menu. Oh. Okay. So menu, timeline. This is kind of getting annoying. I think timeline should be our main entry point, but we'll get to that. That's back to your question about the menus and all that. Anyway, so now everything is. We have timestamps, but that's not what we wanted. I wanted 10 minutes ago. Okay. So the question is what to do about that. I mean, we can't store 10 minutes ago in a database, right? Because by the time we store it, it's going to be 15 minutes ago, right? Yeah, we can't store relative time in a database. So what we're storing in a database is fine, right? Timestamp, that's pretty good. But the question now is this. So in our adapter, we have basically, remember, we have a piece of data and we have a view. And we have successfully, by now, we know how to map a particular column straight to a particular view, right? We are pretty good at that. The question now is, how do we inject a piece of business logic to convert from timestamp to relative time?
Doesn't the simple cursor adapter class have something like that? The utility which can convert?
Yes, it does. Yeah. So basically, we would want to look at the simple cursor adapter. Simple cursor adapter, and see how it works. There's a couple of ways we can approach this to inject the business logic. One approach that I used to do before is I would create a new class called timeline adapter. That's why actually in the example it still says that timeline adapter. So I would override simple cursor adapter and create a timeline adapter. Okay. Why? I want to change the business logic. I want to modify how this happens, how the conversion from mapping happens from a piece of data here to a piece of data here, because I want to inject some kind of logic in there.
But in this case, even if you don't inject that logic, we can still use some built-in method presented in simple cursor.
Yes. So that's what I said. Many ways to skin a cat, right? I don't know why it's always cats, but someone doesn't like cats. Yeah. So if one way would be to modify a timeline adapter, and that's my typical approach. But I'm gonna do it differently this time around. There's something. Basically there a bunch of this. Everything happens in this everything happens in this method called bind view. So bind view is what takes a piece of data and takes the view and then binds the actual records of one to the other. That's what it does, and that's what I typically modify by overriding it. Okay, this time around I'm going to do a different approach. The approach I'm going to do is by modifying the set binder view, view binder. So there's something called set view binder, and sets the binder used to bind data to view. So that's the one that we're going to do, right? But then to do that, we're going to need to create a new view binder. And creating a view binder is pretty simple. You basically create just a simple set view value, right, method, which basically binds the cursor column defined by a specific index to the specific view, right? When binding is handled by the view binder, this method must return true. If the method returns false, simple view binder is going to handle it on its own. So, in other words, we're going to create this new view binder, implement this method, and only handle it for a particular column index, i.e. created at. Right? Make sense? Yeah? Does that sound good, like a strategy? Okay, so that's kind of how you would read the documentation. Okay, so timeline activity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new view binder. So I'm going to define it. I'm going to do it as a constant here. So it's going to be static final view binder equals new view binder. Okay. Oh, I got to give it a name. View binder, since it's a constant, right? And I'm gonna need to say so that like that, and then I need to say add and create organize imports, simple there are a bunch of view binders, so make sure you this is where you gotta use your common sense, right? So which one is it? Simple adapter, simple cursor adapter, simple cursor tree adapter. What do you think? A, B, or C? That would be B, right? Okay, B is the correct answer. Okay. So now that we imported the right one, now Eclipse knows that we need to we got this reverse. So my like that, right? So now organize imports. Oh, let's do okay. Add unimplemented methods. Thank you. So that's the method that we need, right? Our custom binder to bind created at column to its view and change data from timestamp to relative time. That's what we're doing here, right? So just kind of to give you an idea. So it's got this one method, and so this is going to be a particular view, right? View. This is going to be a particular cursor, and this is going to be a particular column index. Okay. So far, so good. So now the column index is going to be the index of the column. So this view this is called for each column, right? In the particular cursor. So it's called for first column, second column, third, and fourth. We have 4 columns, right? ID, created at, user, and text, right? So this is what setView does. So it says true if data was bound to the view, false otherwise. So in other words, if we handled it, we want to return true. Otherwise, we want to return false. So I want to check what this column index is. But basically column index of so if cursor dot index get cursor dot get column index of status data dot created at, right, is not equal to column index, okay, then we're going to return false, right? Because that means that we're not dealing with it. Else we're going to deal with it. Something like that, right? So we are not processing anything other than created that column here, right? So false means let the simple cursor adapter do it like it would have done it anyway, right? Make sense? True means we're handling it. Long timestamp is gonna be then cursor dot get long from this index of in this case I know it's a column index. I can actually get column index, right? So I know it's equal. Make it shorter, like oops. Right, so we get the value of the cursor, and the view in this case is going to be a text view, right? So I can say text view, right? Dot, because I know it's a text view, right? Dot set text. So I'm going to import. Why is it not? No, import it. Why is it not importing my text view? There it is. Oh, it is, okay. Just takes a while. So now I want to set the text for that. You know, this is where now, this is finally the line where I get to inject some business. I want to convert from timestamp, which is a long, to some relative time. And there is something called, you know, I've done it a zillion times, but it's kind of like I can't really remember. Something called date utils, and it's something called date utils. Let's see what we got there in documentation. We kind of look through it, and there is something get relative time span, and let's see which one, relative time span from. Okay. So relative time span, I think it's this one. Oh, from the start time, yes. So return, where is it? Return the string describing the time since start time. Perfect. That's exactly what we want, right? Right? So I'm gonna simply say here, let me do it like this with 2 lines. String relative time is, and then here I'm gonna say relative time, right? Just to kind of make it a little cleaner, more legible, hopefully. So date utils dot, and then get relative time, and that's the one that's simple, bam, and start time is gonna be timestamp. Okay? Why is it complaining? Aha, because it returns a. It returns a. I should have actually done 2 string, right? Because it returns a date sequence, char sequence, as opposed to string, right? Actually, as a matter of fact, why am I doing that? Char sequence, right? It's more proper anyhow.
That was when we selected get relative time span string. That was the last one, right?
Well, the one that only takes 1 parameter.
Oh.
The other ones calculate from and to, and time now, min resolution, which is like in minutes, hours. Like you can say I want relative time in, just in seconds. But let's see what this does. This one does, and go from there. How'd you do that? So it's a good question. So what the heck is this construct here? Fair enough. Fair question. Let me just do it like this. If I didn't do it like this, if I did it as this is anonymous inner class, right? So it's anonymous because it doesn't have a name. Right? It's an inner class because it's within my main class. See how it's within my main class, right? So if I did this sort of the long way, I would have done it like this. I would say my view, so I would say class my view binder implements view binder, okay, like that, right? So that's now a name class. So it's just a class, but I gave it a name. You guys totally understand this, right? No problem. It's an inner class because it's within the class. I could just pull it out and it'd be just a regular class, right? Inner class, anonymous, yeah, it's one of those controversial Java features. So now if I had it like this, I could then say new my view binder, right? So now I'll need to make it static. Yeah, I'll need to make a static and so on. But that basically just makes it shortcuts all this to like that. And then I need to, since I'm actually declaring it here, so I need to like terminate it here with a semicolon.
Yeah, that's what I do have a semicolon at the.
Yeah, because I'm basically saying viewBinder is this class, but this class doesn't exist. I'm kind of just injecting it right here, defining it and creating it, right? So it's like if it existed, I would just give it a name, but here I'm actually, it doesn't exist, so I'm actually injecting its definition right then in its place of existence, right? So that's what that is. It's an anonymous inner class.
So the set new value would be a built-in method in the view binder.
Yes, exactly. And that's just remember when I didn't have it, if I say I mistyped this, right? Eclipse will complain. So I can put the mouse here and said add unimplemented methods, and it just adds it there, right? Because it knows that's what's needed to be implemented by that interface.
Why are we not calling super not? Why are we?
Oh, I don't need to call super in this case.
Because we are doing.
Yeah.
Answers.
Yeah, and I checked the documentation, and it basically said, look, if you want to if you want somebody else to take care of setting this view, i.e. the simple cursor adapter, just return false. And that's what I was saying. If the column is not what we're expecting it to be, right, just return false. Yeah.
So we will take care of it because we return false.
Yeah.
Mine is still throwing this view binder is still throwing asking to add unimplemented methods.
So let it add unimplemented methods. Right. So we are not done, right? So now that I have this view binder, I will need to set it to that view binder. So when I create my cursor, my adapter, right? I need to now say adapter dot set view binder, right? So that now says, you know what? Like before you do the job that you normally do, check, you know, for with this guy, and this guy injects some business logic for that one particular element. So this is one sort of Java-ish way of doing it. I have another way that I said I was going to show you that I typically do, but I'll show you that in a second. So let me see if this works. So menu, and then timeline. Voila! 51 minutes ago, 50 minutes, 5, 7, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5, 18 hours, and then starts eventually in days, right? And so on, right? So it looks pretty decent, right? You guys agree?
So I wanted to check this, that search feature that you had on this list. On when I just start typing, and I should see it.
What search feature?
Starting with
Like somewhere where you said Yahoo, I should just.
You mean if there was a, you mean auto linking in text? Oh, if I start.
But you had the name of the cheese.
alphabetic order.
You had the name of the cheese, and you were on A, and I just did some quick specific
Oh.
something and invented.
Oh, I
So
see.
is that what is that indexed on the entire contents displayed there, or just one?
Oh yeah, I'm not 100% sure how where it's indexed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I start typing something here, say on.
It doesn't work. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
I need to enable that somehow. So yeah, I would look in the API demos for how that's done.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So it's probably just something needs to be bound to something. So. Cool. So did everyone get this?
Is it because we sorted it based on the time and not based on the alphabetical?
Yes, we sorted it. Yes, so we sorted it in our status data in our implementation of query. We said this is how we want to do a query. I'll get rid of this stuff.
But I think that's more of a display thing, right? It shouldn't just have a that should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So at this point, so we have this. I'll just really quickly show you how the other way that I was doing it. Where's my other example? My other approach would be to actually do it like this. To create a new adapter by subclassing simple cursor adapter and then changing, overriding the bind view, because bind view does all the work. And then I basically change, I do whatever the parent was going to do, and then I basically redo it for created that. Right?
Here also you could do that if fonts are true.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could have done that. Yeah, I would have kept two, but this is for the entire row, actually. So what this is called once for the entire row. So this actually handles all three things, right? So it sets user. So this happens for the entire row. Then first, I do whatever the parent was gonna do. So it sets user text and created that, but then I said, okay, I know that created that is messed up, so I change it.
It's less efficient.
Well, technically, every time I'm letting the system do created that, and then I'm overriding it. So yes, I'm repeating a work, right? But it's in my mind, it's quicker to develop. So it's up to you. But this is designed specifically for this purpose to you know this approach with a view binder. So we put everything there and so on. What I like is outsourcing that in a separate class, but you know it's neither here nor there. So it's all good. So at this point, so where we're at, kind of on the big picture, is we basically have this service. It successfully puts everything in a database, and we basically have a way to display this, and we have a list here, and everything works. Okay. So we basically have the fully working app that you can configure, you can use it. You know, it's totally usable, right? And all that. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to wrap up a couple of minor things with respect to this app. We are going to refactor it a little bit because I would like this to be now my main starting point. And remind me, that was the question about what about the menus, because I want to have the menus here, but maybe I want to have them here as well, right? So we got to address that, right? And then what we're going to do is we want to possibly start this at boot or at network on-off time, something like that, so just to explain boot receivers. And then we want to maybe package it into a content provider, and we want to publish all this on the marketplace or something, right? You know, and have people complain, oh, it's not working great, and all that.
You could also mention that we learn to use the GPS API and pull from this location.
Yeah, my plan is to finish all this stuff. Well, I mean, we're technically done, but we're going to do a little refactoring tomorrow to kind of review some stuff, and there are a couple of new things like receiver and content provider. So we're going to do that in the morning, and then I would like to do leave this afternoon for other topics that interest you. So one topic was, where's this sticky that we had? One topic that we had on the list was location-based services. So we're going to talk about that because we could have status activity actually include the location-based data. Maybe we'll carry it through to the database and all that. Maybe not, but at least we'll make sure that we post it or something like that. So we can do that fairly simply, right? So we'll do that, and then we'll do some other topics as well.
Also, when you post it, you can show that when it's posted on the
Yeah, that's a source. Yeah, you technically cannot change that. So there's a property. There's a property in the API, JTwitter Twitter API that is where's the Java doc? Remember, status has something called source, but I don't think you can change that. It's kind of hard coded, right? So it's web IM and so on and so on. So that's supposed to be part of the library, right? All right. So that's basically it.